Welcome to Dairyland Frights, the paranormal podcast that covers everything spooky, creepy, and mysterious in the Midwest and beyond. And today, I have one of my favorite paranormal investigators back on, Rachel. How are you doing? Good. And I brought her hubby along, or she brought the hubby along. Keith, nice to meet you, Keith.
Nice to meet you.
Nice. So obviously we've had Rachel on. She's talked about her paranormal group and her paranormal investigations. Can you talk about your group? Liminal Shadows? Is that correct? Yeah. Yeah. So tell my spooky friends about it. Thank you.
It's us. So going through changes and choices and decisions, the paranormal group has decided to become just her and I, to branch out, to do paranormal investigations, and to work on collaborating with other teams. It's nice to have a team with you because you have more people to help and go through evidence and things like that. But on the other hand, when it's just the two of us, then it allows us to expand and collaborate with a lot more teams and maybe even get to a lot more places, because right now our calendar, every time I wake up in the morning, she's like, guess where we're going? So we've always got somewhere new that we're headed. So it gives a little bit more freedom that way, because then you're not having to worry about other teammates trying to break free and get their schedule free and everything else. So that's us in a nutshell. Liminal Shadow. And preference, I've been brought along and I am the skeptic of the group. So I think of us. So it's kind of like if we're going to go back to the Sculder days, Scully and Mulder from X-Files. X-Files. He has the poster where he says, I want to believe. And I think I'm more like Scully, where I want it to be scientific. I want to understand it. I want to see the proof, the evidence, all that stuff. So it's kind of like that. And we're getting there. I think I'm open-minded. I'm not like everything is wrong. Everything is fake. Everything is not paranormal. So I think I'm open-minded enough to say, I can't explain that. What was that?
Yeah, exactly. So I already know Rachel's origin story. She's told me about how she got into the paranormal and everything like that. And you kind of told me, Keith, about you're a skeptic, but how did you want to do this with the wife? I mean, did she just twist your arm and say, we're doing this, Keith? Or were you like, no, I've had some paranormal that I couldn't explain when I was a kid, or something similar in your life that you were just not sure about?
Yeah, no, it was I lost the wrestling match, so she's like, you're now on the team. No, actually, I don't recall really having anything. I know I had one potential UFO sighting as a kid, so I don't know if it was actually a UFO, meteorite, I don't know. But what happened is after I met her, she started talking to me about some of the shows she was watching and things like that, and so I started watching them, and you could tell the real from the fake and the ones that are like over the top. And it's like, wait a minute, why is the show ending when you're just getting the evidence you're claiming you want? And I'm like, I would stick around. I would wait. You're hearing this stuff. So I think that's kind of like more of where my origin story came from is watching the shows and then starting to go on some investigations with her teams individually, things of that nature.
Yeah. So, Rachel, how do you deal with that when Keith is like, no, I don't hear what you're hearing, or I don't see what you're seeing? How do you deal with that?
I mean, I'm kind of used to it, but I just beg the spirits to touch him. Then he'll have a different point of view, because he'll actually experience, I think what a lot of his experience on ghost hunts, which, from time to time, it can be like a spirit touching you. But I mean, he's heard at different locations we've been at. He's heard a disembodied voice a couple times, or at least one was a whistle.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were at a couple different locations. One was a whistle. It was a straight out whistle. Everyone thought it was me because it was like right next to me. I mean, it wasn't me. And then we were on it and we reviewed the evidence. It was on the recorder. It was everything. It was like, okay. And then there was another one where we were at the cabin in 360, and we were in the basement of where a person had gotten murdered, and we were all just trying to figure out what was going on down there. And it was like it was determined it was like the father's workshop. So he was down there doing woodwork, maybe fixing things for other people, stuff of that nature. And they were asking a question along the lines of, did you repair furniture for neighbors or something like that? And then just out of nowhere, like over here, I heard no. And I looked at her. Yeah, and I looked at her. I said, did you hear that? And she's like, yes. And then the girl next to her didn't hear it. But then there was a girl on my side who had never been on an investigation. And I said, did you hear that? She's like, yeah. And I said, what did it say? She goes, no. And I said, yes, exactly. So those are things that for me are harder to debunk. Now, did we go through the basement? Did we look through the rafters? Did we check for speakers? No. I mean, you want to try and think that places like this I don't think that anything like that was there. But if you're going to 100% rule that out, that's something, technically you should have checked. But it's not the first disembodied voice I heard either. We were in the Night House, and that's up in Kentucky. And it was the same thing. There was just a group of us in there. They were asking some questions, and I don't even remember what the question or the response was, but I just said, did you hear that? She heard it. And then the owner of the Night House who was next to me heard it, but nobody else did. So disembodied voices and EVPs are really hard for me to debunk.
Yeah, exactly. So getting back to that, being touched, Keith, what would you do if some spirit or whatever, like grabbed your arm, scratched you, anything like that? How do you think you would react?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I don't encourage it. I don't want, but I wouldn't mind if it happened, because I think, first thing is I'd look who's around. What's around me? Did I back into something? Is there something near me? Is there somebody by me? Is there a vent, an animal, a bug, whatever? Go through those little things first. Typically, I have something near me in the way of some sort of device. And, sometimes it's our little XLS camera. It's something to just grab and maybe start looking around. I try to carry a flashlight too. So it's little things like that I would try and figure out. As far as a scratch, I think that would be a lot more physical evidence that would be really harder to debunk, because it's an actual scratch. A touch, a brush, something like that. It can always be a bug. I mean, a lot of these places are older.
Yeah.
Some of them are actually abandoned. So you never know what's really in there or could be in there. But like I said, I don't long to be touched, but I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Gotcha. So, Rachel, do you feel you need to protect him? Like, if there was some type of thing going on? Because usually it's the man that has to be like, do it, macho. Do you feel like you need to protect him from certain entities out there that might hurt him? There's an honest answer for you, Keith. Well, you're screwed.
Oh, I know.
Well, I mean, like
I'm offering him up.
When we went to the last jail, it's like you go there, and when you're doing the tour, it's just an old building. But then they start telling you stories, and then they start filling your head with these things, and then all of a sudden you go back to movies, and it's like, okay, well, now I'm a little bit apprehensive because you're telling me this is supposed to happen in here. You're telling me people have experienced this, and now you're also equating it to movies that are out there, which obviously mess with your mind. That's the whole point of the movie. So it's like when I'm walking around the place initially, it's like, okay, this is no big deal. I can handle all this. And then the lights go out, and then those stories get in your head. And it's like, oh, okay. But I'll still go into those rooms. I'll go in there with an open mind and, a little bit more trepidation at that point, because it's like, you've just filled my head with quote unquote ghost stories.
Yeah, exactly. And that can mess with you, because you might see shadows that aren't there. You might hear voices that aren't there. You might, hear footsteps that aren't there.
Because your suggestion is too much.
It's not too much. It just, it puts it in your head. I'm right. I'm kind of on the fence between that. Sometimes I wouldn't mind going into a place blind, so to speak, where you have no idea of the history.
Yeah.
So that way, if something happens, then when you're done and you're debriefing and talking with the owners or whoever, they could say, oh yeah, that happened, or that happened to those people, or whatever. Whereas if you have a history, that's helpful, because then you can talk to the people or the spirits that are there based on the history. But then they're also kind of guiding you, because they're giving you a history. They're telling you who you should expect to run into or what you should expect to find in certain locations. for me, it's like 50-50. Do I want the history or do I not? And it's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe you want
exactly.
the history without the ghost story portion. Like if you want the factual history of the property so that you know potentially who you're talking to, rather than the blow by blow, of what ghost things have happened from room to room.
And what's happened to other people, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because then maybe you're putting something in your head, right? That may or may not be there. So you've had investigations as a couple and everything. Can you walk me through what you got right and what did you embarrassingly do wrong? Like something you did right and then something you were like, oh, that was dumb. Why'd we do that?
I know one of the things that we had on the locations we were at, and I think that this was when we were with the rest of our team, our former team. And so I think that one of the things is, and we didn't really realize this until we were reviewing evidence later, that during one of the Estes methods that our teammate Sam was going through at the time, that there was potentially some negativity spirit-wise that was happening, but we didn't realize it in the moment because we were kind of sucked into the investigation and what was happening. And then when we reviewed it later and we actually, you kind of like step outside of the investigation at that point. And so when we were reviewing it, we're like, oh my gosh, we started hearing the responses that were coming through that she was hearing and sort of piecing everything together with the questions we were asking, with responses that were being given that we could actually review on EVP. And we were like, crap, we probably should have removed her from that a lot, So I was like, we just have to when those things happen we kind of talked about trying to slow down and trying to really pay attention to what that person under Estes is saying in response to our questions and really be like, wait a minute here. Something's not adding up.
Right. Like she said, that when you review it on the evidence, you hear it then. It's kind of like watching an outside relationship that's failing. You're not in the relationship, you see it fail, but the relationship isn't. When you're watching those questions come across, we missed them at the time. But watching them afterwards, it's like, oh, yeah, we should have pulled her way sooner. And it could have been, the fact that the location was next to a jail, a block down from a cemetery. So we were assuming certain things may have been coming across, but taking in the account those other two locations only, blocks away, it could have been something we didn't even expect.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's part of the job of investigating. You just don't know what you're going to find and everything. Have you guys come back and put on any recordings or anything and you never heard something while you were there and then you listen to the recording and you're like voices or I don't know, shadow?
Anytime.
Oh, okay. So tell me about a couple. Okay. Tell me about a couple.
I talk about so one of the locations that we went to a lot, which was it's a historic Rosemont in Gallatin, Tennessee. I know when we saw one on review, we caught an orb that we didn't see at the time. And we saw it kind of come out of sort of the corner of the wall above a chair, above the chess table, I think it was, and it moved back behind and it looked into the arm of one of our friends investigators that were with us. But we also heard in that same room I think we caught it both. Did we catch it both on camera and we caught it on two devices, on our audio recorder and on the camera. We caught a voice of a man saying the children want quiet. And
wow.
it was pretty crazy.
Yeah,
so that was it was like a full sentence, essentially. I think we were kind of approaching right around midnight or something. And so, that had my wheels turning afterwards, going well, that was pretty appropriate if they're living their lives on the other side, just across the veil, parallel to ours, because, he's saying that the children are still here and they want you out because you're being noisy.
Or
you
just,
know?
yeah, or just because it
You're
was getting
asking
late.
too many questions.
Right.
Get out.
Yeah, the EVPs,
Yeah.
when you watch the shows on TV and you listen to them play back the EVPs and there's something there, it's like, okay, well, did they record that ahead of time? What did they do? How is that? But doing this now myself, when we're sitting there and it is nobody's saying a word, you don't hear anything. And then you go back and you review the evidence and you hear something like that where it says the children want quiet. Not only is it an EVP, it's a full sentence telling you something, but I know, I'm sitting there. Nobody was talking. Nothing happened. There's no one outside. We get these places alone. They're usually big enough to where there's no other houses or businesses or anything nearby. So you don't think someone's outside. So those are really the harder ones to debunk. And we do seem to get quite a bit of EVPs everywhere we go. If there's nothing else we get, it's definitely EVPs.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
It
really
seems pretty
interesting.
common. Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems like a common evidence. That's why I think one of the best tools we have is an audio recorder, and in conjunction with a camera. Because like when we get it on 2 devices, we're like, "Whoa, we got it on 2 devices!" Like we're so
Right.
excited, for that to happen. Because I think we find that sometimes we'll get it on one and not the other. And I don't know if that's the spirit imprinting on one device or if it's actually, proximity to the
Yeah.
device.
And we try to keep them across, like not next to each other. So if the video camera is on one side of the room, we want to put the audio on the other. Try and make sure we're covering the whole room in so many different devices. It is a lot of equipment we try to bring with to, make sure we're covering everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of equipment, did you have a favorite piece of equipment right now that you guys swear by?
Right now, it's the dead bell. So it
That's
looks
what I
The
looks like,
dead bell. Yes.
yeah. For those who might not know, it just looks like a standard hotel bell, and I think that's a reason why spirits might like it is because it's very familiar. If you
Nobody
want to,
see it. I can grab it. If
But
I
it's,
wanna see what-
Sure. Love it.
that is like our EVPs. It always goes off. It usually goes off in response to questions. We've used it everywhere. We've used it at the cemetery, and we'll put it on the headstone or something. We'll walk around, and nothing's by it. We'll have a EVP meter there, making sure that there's no electricity running through the ground or anything, and the bell will just start ringing. So out of nowhere, this is one of. And
There it is.
so you can ring it like a regular bell, but it works off of EMF too. So if you turn it on, you can adjust it. And usually we keep
Yeah.
it pretty low. So when we're asking questions, we'll try and stick with 1 for yes, 2 rings for no. Sometimes they get really excited because they may have not had people talking to them or they may have not had a way to communicate. And it might actually go crazy. It might be just ding, 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 ding. So when it comes to one piece of equipment we swear by, so far it's this one.
I see. That's what I love. Simple tech sometimes is the best tech, right? A lot of people are walking in with all these cameras and everything like that. That's crazy, right? When you just need simple tech, it's sometimes the best because spirits have to use energy to show up. And the less energy they have to use, in my opinion, I'm not a paranormal investigator, but the number of people I've spoke to have told me it takes a lot of energy to show up on a camera. It takes a lot of energy to show up on a spirit box or whatever you're using that's more technology, an EMF, a meter, or whatever, right? What do you guys think of flashlights? I've heard a lot of people give me flashlights and cat balls as another low tech that works really well.
I think we end up preferring cat balls more than flashlights. I think. I don't know. In your opinion, you kind of don't like the flashlight.
I don't like the flashlight thing because you have to make it just barely contact the contacts. And then supposedly it's the spirit that will make the contact or connection to light up the light and then disconnect it. I think when you're doing that and you're making it really loose, it's just something that can happen with the flashlight itself. So I really don't like the flashlight. I haven't used it. I think we've had people in our group use it or people we've gone with, not our group, previous groups. But I'm not a fan of the flashlight. As far as the cat balls, I like the cat balls because, suppose they have to move them. You have a little cat ball stand. So if you put it on the stand, it's basically an EMF detector kind of thing. So same thing. If it goes off and nothing's around, no one's jumping on the ground, no one fell on the table.
Yeah. Right.
And you kind of think something's around.
Yeah. So, of all the places you visited so far, whether it be asylums, prisons, abandoned places, which one felt the most heavy or like gave you the most undeniable evidence?
Go first. I don't know. Because you've gone to more places than I have at this point.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. As far as heavy, I would have to say Brushy Mountain Penitentiary.
What's that?
Probably felt so in Tennessee. Brushy Mountain was a state penitentiary.
Huge.
Yeah, big state prison that is no longer used, obviously, for a prison, but it was a prison for many, many years, and I think all the way up until was it like the 80s or something like that, or maybe late 80s.
I don't think so.
It was used, and so until they moved all the prisoners to Nashville, but yeah, it's in eastern Tennessee. It's tucked into kind of the mountainside. They used to have an old mine there as well, and they used to have the prisoners work in the mine. So there's an extreme, I think, heaviness to that place in certain spots of it. Like I really felt it in the room that was like the laundry area, and below it's the same building that houses what they call the hole. So when there were unruly prisoners or whatever, they'd put them downstairs in the hole. There's only 3 or 4 cells, and
Hey, you got touched in the butt in the hole.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she shared that story with me. That's a great story. One of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really feel anything. I do feel a little bit bad because when she was feeling heavy about it in the laundry room, she needed to step outside and someone else went outside with her instead of me because I wanted to stay in there. And I'm like, if something's happening, I want to find it.
I was ticked off.
Oh, you should be.
I want to see what's going on.
Yeah, I was like, don't care how I feel.
I did. I just wanted the evidence.
Yeah. This has turned into another podcast. The relationship said problems of paranormal couples. Film at 11. That's funny. Not the butt thing, but it is kind of funny, I have to admit, Rachel. It is kind of funny. It could have been worse, right?
I don't have the same feelings she does. There are times when we've gone to certain places where I might feel slightly lightheaded in some locations, like, whoa, like one of those things where maybe if you sit up too quick or something like that, you get a blood rush. So, but I don't think the ability she has. That's why it's more of the debunking on my end. But, again, I think it goes with everything they put in your head. I think Brushy was a very intimidating place. And then, of course, we went to Waverly. And with all the stories about Waverly, we did catch on our first iteration of our SLS camera, we caught what they call the creeper. So there's a shadow figure that they call the creeper. And we were walking around and I just caught something on the wall for a second. And
it was on the ceiling.
Yeah, and then it was on the ceiling. And then it just disappeared. But a lot of people see it as a shadow. We just saw it on the SLS as the little stick figure guy. And then we got some decent evidence at Waverly. I wish we had more time there. But we split off and it was a bigger group. So as we're investigating in some rooms, they're walking around and they're going to their other places while we're investigating. All of a sudden you think you're hearing something and it's like, there's some talking. What is that? And then it's the other group coming down the hallway. So it would be nice to be able to get, and that's where I have that mixed feelings too. I mean, part of it is I like to have everyone together. So that way, everyone is here and that if you're hearing something, it's really nothing from the outside. But on the other hand, if you have a bigger place, it is good to split up. Like if someone was in the body chute at Waverly, which was supposed to be really haunted, and then you have someone up on the 3rd floor, they're not going to interfere with each other. And that's good. But if it's a smaller place and you split up, it's like, okay, well, how do I know I'm not hearing noise from another group that just went off this way? So yeah, those two were pretty intimidating. And then what was the other one? There was one more, wasn't there? Well, the interesting one with Cabin on 360, that wasn't necessarily scary.
I was going to mention that.
Yeah, this is a good story. So we were upstairs. It was like the end of the night. We hadn't gotten to the loft, and they have 2 properties at Cabin at 360. One is the house where someone got killed, and the other one is more of like a log cabin. And they did that because they wanted to sell log cabins. So it was built in the 70s or 80s. It wasn't old,
80s.
but it's on like, battlefield ground from the Civil War and things like that. So we were up in the loft and we were doing some just standard dowsing rods. Yeah. And she was getting a lot of answers. We were trying to figure out who was there, and we think we were getting to somewhere. Then one of the other people came in with their little spirit box. I almost called it a geoport.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
She had it rigged.
But it was doing the whole static thing, and it was big, and she's like, yeah, this is pretty cool. It's new. And then all of a sudden, when we were asking questions, all the static went away and it got silent. And she's like, oh, this has never happened before. I think something might be wrong. But then all of a sudden we start hearing gunshots coming through it. Bang, 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 bang. And then we hear someone go, ugh. And then we hear so many gunshots, it sounded like firecrackers. It was like boom, 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 boom. And then I think we heard horses or something too, and all sorts of different things. And then the gunshots tapered down. It got quiet again, and then it went back to the normal static of the device. And I was like, what did we just hear? We got it on our recorder because we had our audio recorder going.
But it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I don't think we have ever experienced something like that before.
Yeah, and then when we send it back to the owner, he's like, "Do you believe it's haunted yet?"
You got a good one. That's definitely a good one. Yeah. That's funny you mentioned that, because I had one of my paranormal investigators. They're up in the East Coast around a lot of the battles of the Revolutionary War and stuff like that. And he did something that I think is really interesting, like to share with my paranormal investigation teams, see if you guys want to try it. He got a recording of musket fire and cannon fire, and he went out around the area, around the woods where the biggest battles were, and he played it, through, I don't know if he just did it through his iPhone or whatever, and then he waited to see what would happen. And he heard the same thing you guys heard, like musket fire, like bang, 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 bang. And he was like, and they hear voices like you said, like, people, men scream, like a scream, like someone who's been shot. And I thought I've never heard of that. And I said, that is a pretty cool way to, I guess you're not really antagonizing the ghost, but you're kind of maybe familiarizing themselves with what happened in the area. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
It's kind of like a trigger object. You're bringing something that is familiar with them that they may have heard. And I think you're just encouraging or familiarizing them with whatever you have, whether you have an old musket or you have a musket ball or you have the recordings of some sort of cannon fire or gunfight. I think that's a way to.
When we were at cabin at 360, when we went into the woods, was it? Didn't they play something, or was it like a song?
I think they played music.
They played they tried to elicit a response from out in the woods. That's one of the places.
But we got a response. Remember?
The whistle.
Yeah. So they said that you get a whistle in the woods, and so there are supposedly different locations in the woods that you go through, and there's one that they said is a portal. And so we were in the woods, we weren't getting a lot of activity, and they're like, if you whistle, they'll whistle back. And so we whistled a couple times, nothing happened, and as we start leaving, someone else whistled, and all of a sudden there was another whistle. And it was like, that was
like behind us. And I was like,
where we were. Yeah, where we were.
Yeah, get out of here.
So, yeah, I think, like you said, bringing something that they're familiar with or that they've heard before as a trigger object is a way to get them to respond.
Yeah, hopefully.
So it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, there you go. I like to always share from my groups and everything like that. Some people have some really unique, different ideas that maybe can help you guys get some evidence. So a lot of people ask me this. Do you prefer a day investigation or a night investigation to capture evidence?
So me, I don't care. Because if you look at a lot of what you see out there, let's go to cryptids. Bigfoot. They always talk about Bigfoot. And most of the evidence you see, what you might call legit evidence, is during the day. I mean, the Patterson-Gimlin film is during the day. All those things that you see with Bigfoot is during the day. Yet when you go and watch the shows, they seem to go at night. They're like, oh, Bigfoot's nocturnal. He sleeps during the day. We got to catch him at night. So when it comes to ghost hunting too, do the spirits even know day from night? I mean, do they know time the way we know time now that they've passed on? So 2:00 at night, any different than noon during the day? I think, again, it goes back to TV shows. People like to go lights out. They think it's dark. It's easier to capture or see something. You can see a shadow. You can see this. You can see that. So for me, with our investigations, most of them are at night because that's when they usually let you come in. But if there was something during the day, like when we go to the cemeteries or graveyards, we do get evidence there, cat balls, EVPs, the dead bell, and it's during the day. So it's bright and sunny out there, and we're still getting things. She had dowsing rods, and we were connecting with someone we thought was right there because they were answering the questions on what she was asking, what I was asking with the dowsing rods, yes and no's. So I don't think it matters for me. What about you?
I just have a little bit of a different perspective. I do believe like activity can happen at any time of day, but I think more activity happens at night just because I think the living are quieter. And so that allows for like us to be able to like hear them or see them because I think, there's not so much like I think that we're loud. Like I think physical human beings are loud. Here we go. Every noise we make is really loud.
What?
Yeah. Jesus. Now I'm deaf. And so like I think that, that's why it's easier to hear them because they're so much more subtle. And like they might be around us all the time talking and, moving and all that kind of thing, but we don't hear it. Because everything around us is loud. Our TVs, our music, our, just traffic noises, like we're out and about. But if you're in the middle of the night, right, and most of the world is sleeping, then you have a tendency to hear them.
It makes sense. I mean, it makes sense that everything is kind of quieter. So it gives them the opportunity to speak up, so to speak. Yeah. So it does make sense that's a good argument.
Yeah, I hear you. Way to go, Rachel. You won that one. Way to go.
She wins most of them, aside from shuffleboard.
Yeah, I hear you.
I win that too.
Whoa, there's another podcast. Paranormal couples in competition. So let me piggyback off that. This maybe be more for Rachel. How about full moon investigations like blood moon, harvest moon? Do you think you're getting more? I don't know.
Yeah.
Energy or whatever you want to say, activity?
I mean, I tend to believe in all that. I mean, I definitely believe that there is extra energy when the moon is closer to us than farther away. I believe the same thing if there's a storm that comes, if there's like a thunderstorm and it can give you some more energy in the atmosphere, that's what spirits need to be able to do more. And we've been at location. We were out of business and that was last, what was it? Like
August?
I was going to say like last fall. And it was definitely a thunderstorm roaring through Nashville area. And man, like we just like activity was crazy. I mean, we got everything. Like our tripwire was going nuts. We were getting the dead bell was ringing. Like we got EVPs. We got even visual kind of anomalies. 2 different visual caught on camera. Yeah, we got like in one that was the crazy orb.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, no, that's 3 then. That's 3 because we caught one in that one room. Oh, that's 4 then. The chair moved. Well, the chair moving was all you saw was the top move, and I can't be 100% certain that one of us didn't move that chair. We were sitting in the other 3, but you do see the chair top go like this, like someone pulled it out, and then later you see it come back, like someone pulled it in. So the camera was stable. The camera wasn't moving. Could someone have done that with their foot under the table? Possibly. I mean, that's what all the debunkers will say. So sure. I like that as evidence, but it's not proof. But she's right. We caught like 4 different things, and one of them was an orb. And it's not like the storm itself was setting everything off, because as the storm started to pass, we still continued to get the activity. I think it was just the energy from the storm. And it was also the first time anyone had ever investigated there.
Yeah, it was a business. So.
That's super. That always just blows my mind, because I've heard 2 things. One, limestone and water, as well as thunderstorms and everything. Energy in the air just brings the spirits stronger activity, I guess. Is that right, Rachel? Was that kind of what I'm looking at here?
He does.
I think the last time I was on, we were talking about stone tape theory.
Yeah.
Place theory and stigma theory, they're all connected kind of in a way. But yeah, I mean, I do find that I think we found in numerous locations that we've been at, especially like here in Tennessee and Kentucky, there are so many limestone buildings around. It's not just the land. The land has a huge part in that, but it's the foundations of the building. And sometimes the building themselves have like limestone walls and foundations and floors and sometimes ceilings. Whole jails are made out of limestone.
Brushy, right?
Brushy had some limestone in the land, but yeah, maybe parts of Brushy were made with limestone. But it's crazy, but it does seem to amplify the energy. Whether it's like amplifying or holding the residual there too. It might be a combination of both. But then the place memory too, which it just means like the location is holding the memory. So sometimes if it's a traumatic event that happened, or even something that is like positive, it doesn't have to be a negative type of event that happens, but it just leaves an imprint on the location, and that will like play back to you. So especially if someone's quote unquote sensitive to pick those kind of energies, they can pick that up like right away. But then there's also stigma that has more to do with very traumatic events like murders and suicides and all that kind of stuff. But that like leaves sort of a stain, if you will, on a location. So those three are all kind of connected in a way, but yeah, they definitely have an effect, I think, on the energy somehow.
Yeah, that's fascinating to me. There's two places I've done episodes on that you guys, if you're ever in the area, please tell me and we'll go and grab dinner or something like that. Have a good time, talk more paranormal. But Galena, Illinois and Alton, Illinois, they're both built upon limestone foundations, and one of them has a limestone foundation with a cave, and there's water running underneath it. Both are hella haunted. I mean, it's crazy how haunted they are. They're considered in the Midwest two of the most haunted cities in the Midwest, and people I've spoke to, I've been at both locations because I love going out and going on ghost tours. They say, yeah, they've seen spirits in their living room, like just appear out of nowhere and then disappear. During a terrible storm or just a full moon or something like that. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. That's just really interesting to me. So I think there's something behind that, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of energy to deal with that, especially at a place like both of those places that are from the 80s and had a lot of, unfortunately, bad history associated with a lot of murder, suicide, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think that definitely has something to do with why, they're picking up on some of that residual.
Yeah,
in the environment. So like maybe they're getting like a spirit coming through like their place. It might just be a recording of that spirit. It doesn't mean that it's an intelligent haunt, because that's one part of it, right? There could be an intelligent spirit that initiates communication with you, but then there's also that residual that just replays over and over again, and they will just, sometimes that walking through a property, you're like, wow, just walk right through my house. Well, your house wasn't always there.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it could just be going about its like normal routine that it would have done, and it left that imprint of itself.
Yeah.
On the land there.
Yeah, because some of the apartments that they have in those towns are from the 1800s, and they used to be a brothel. They used to be a bar. They used to be a funeral parlor. You know what I mean? It's back in the 1800s. They just changed them. Yeah, it's just changed it constantly.
Yeah.
So hey, when you mentioned apartments, I think I do remember a bit of an origin story. So one of the things I had, or maybe one of the only experiences I had, is I remember I was 4, maybe 3, 4, 5, somewhere in that ballpark. And we were at my grandmother's house, grandparents. But my grandmother and, the adults were in the kitchen. They were talking about stories and things like that. And we were in the living room. Yeah. And I think I had started to head towards the kitchen or something. And I heard my grandma telling a story. And she was talking about her house. And she's like, yes. And I see this little girl all the time. And I don't know who she is. And she came out of the bathroom, but she didn't have a head. And I remember I turned and went right back the other way. But for some reason, that stuck with me. And it did fuel investigating. But maybe that is kind of in there as a fuel from remembering her telling that, because this is a grandmother who literally, if she knew you were coming, she would bake a cake. So we would often get to her house. Yeah, she'd be like, oh, the cake's too warm. We have to let it cool. So for her to tell a story like that doesn't seem like it was just like a ghost story to tell the rest of the adults. It seemed like something that she was really experiencing. The problem is, she passed before I had the opportunity to talk to her about anything like that. She died young to me. I think she was still in her late 70s when she died, but still, that's a story. And that was, I had to have been like 3, 4, 5, because it was in Chicago. It was one of those Chicago apartments. I totally remember the whole apartment layout and everything. And I remember going down the hallway and hearing that story. And so it stuck to me to this day.
Yeah.
So maybe that was the true origin story, and it just tucked down inside me.
That's really cool. Or, well, not the girl with the no head on. That's kind of. But
I was like, really did she know she was a girl?
Because I think she may have seen her previously because she knew it was a girl, or maybe it was the clothes.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. If she was wearing a dress or something, because I was going to be like, how did you know?
I know, but when I heard she didn't have a head, it was...
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I hear you. I definitely. So, do you guys believe in demons or just lost souls?
I don't subscribe to demons. Not demon per se. I think there is negative energy out there, because I think that in this universe there has to be a balance between light and dark. How would you know the positive things if you didn't have the negative? And so I think that there's definitely negative energy out there. But I think that if you're, and this is excuse my French if you need to cut this out, but if you're an asshole in life, you're going to be an asshole in death.
Yes.
Leopard's not going to change its spots. So if you're a negative energy in life, you're probably going to be a negative energy in death.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think definitely that out there. There are people who think, the demons are just another, sort of something that wasn't human ever. And I think that there are spirits out there that are like elemental spirits that are, may have been something that wasn't ever human, but I think more demon is like more religious, a religious belief in as far as like what they consider negative.
Yeah. And so with that, I was born and raised Catholic. So I had the whole angel, demon, God, Satan thing. What I believe now, I don't know what I believe now. But, if you go with that theory, it's along the lines of what she's saying. If there's positive out there has to be negative. Are there truly demons out there? Again, that's a question I don't know. And maybe I don't want to find out, because if there are demons, then they're meant to do harm. They're not here or on the spiritual plane to, play Parcheesi or something with you. They're here to do harm. So, do I believe in demons? I don't think so. I think I subscribe more to the negative theory that, yes, there's some negativity out there. There's going to be negative spirits. There's going to be things that, will give you problems. Like we experienced with other people in some of our groups, they've gotten negative attachments. So how bad would that lead to them? How far down the road would things go if they didn't know they had something like that? I don't know. But as far as, I just think it's more negativity in some aspects than demons. By saying there's no demons, then I'm going to put demonologists out of business. I don't want to say that there's actually no demons, because, The Exorcist, I mean, that was a true story.
Based on a true story.
Yeah. And, these demonologists, what am I looking for? The word, the exorcisms. There is a lot of true stories that the Catholic Church claims have happened for exorcisms. And if someone's possessed like that, is it really a demon? Is it a demon possessing someone?
Could it be mental illness? Could it be?
Well, that's the job of the church to figure out that it's not mental illness, that it's an actual possession. But that's in a whole nother podcast, as we would say. But yeah, I don't know. I think I do lean more towards negative energy than demons.
Yeah, that you know what's really interesting to me. I've read some research from certain exorcists from the Catholic Church and stuff, and most of them agree that over 90% of it is just some type of mental, issue that people have to work through. But there's that like 2 to 3% where they don't know. They just don't know why this is happening. Like they have no idea. Which makes you think, right? Makes you go like, okay. And then you hear, I'm not sold on this, but like Ouija board stories where people have let demons in and terrible things have happened to their families. I'm not sold on that, but interesting, right? Kind of interesting. Makes you think. Like you're absolutely right. If there's good, there's evil.
Yeah, and when you say that, if you just had 1 million people claim to be possessed, and the church says only 2% are real, that's still 20,000 people out of 1 million that are real based on the church. And that's just based on 1 million. I mean, there's 8 billion people in the world now?
Yeah.
So, if these numbers were to inflate to that and they gave us real numbers, just on 1 million, that's 20,000 people that the church would say are genuinely possessed by demons or evil spirits. That's a lot.
That's crazy to think about, right? That is a lot.
Yeah.
That's the size of a small town, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, now
Absolutely.
You scared me, Keith. Thanks a lot.
Now he's going to have nightmares.
You're the one
You're
the one who gave me the number, so I was just giving you numbers
So
back.
you had to put
I
his
know.
out to do the calculation.
We're sitting there with our calculators out. Oh my God. Even if it was
Exactly.
0.5%, that's still a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Let's say it's 500 people. That's still
Right.
500 people.
Correct. That's a whole high school and then some.
Yeah. Oh, now that's even more scary. Great. Thanks a lot. So
Unexplained high school.
now I'll let you guys know about it on Facebook and Instagram, wherever I'll find you. And I'll be like, I had a nightmare. I couldn't sleep. You guys got to come over. So this is more for Keith, but Rachel, obviously you can answer this one too. If you could capture the perfect piece of evidence that would convince the entire scientific community that the paranormal, ghosts, spirits, whatever, exist, what would it look like?
It's a tough question because now, in this day and age, everybody's going to debunk everything. I mean, even with AI at this point, they could say, oh, that was AI generated, it was this or that. But I think it would have to be, this is extreme, but not only would it have to be catching something on camera.
Like a full-bodied apparition.
Yes, like a full-body apparition, but actually communicating with it as well. So you get the evidence physically on the camera, but you also get the verbal evidence that there's communication. That would convince a lot of people. I would like to say, I don't know that there's evidence out there that's going to convince everyone because there's so many skeptics out there. There's so many, it would change my mind.
Apart anything.
Yeah, it would change my mind. But yeah, she's right. People will rip apart anything. You can have rock solid evidence. You can have
What you think is rock solid evidence.
Yeah.
Somebody else is going to say,
right. You can have,
I've got a different opinion.
you can have Elon Musk and all these other technical people sitting next to you when you catch this evidence, and they can all corroborate it with you. But there's still going to be people out there saying, oh, yeah, that's BS because Elon's doing this because he wants this, this, and that. So it's like, I think the
You
best.
have to have a round table where
the
the
best
spirit can manifest itself and answer science
right.
questions.
If I was in a location, I think that would be the best evidence I could catch would be physical capture of a full body apparition with communication. I think that would be what could lead to the most disclosure. It's not disclosure. The most, the best way to prove that there is life beyond. I don't know if there's anything else. What would you think? If you can capture something that would prove to the world that it's real, what would it be?
Yeah, it would probably have to be that. It would be like the interview with the vampire, but with a ghost. Interview with the apparition. There we go.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
could actually show you how they come in and out of one plane to another, one plane of existence
And you're
to
talking.
our plane of
And you're talking like a full interview thing. I mean, if it was just something to capture, and I don't think obviously pictures. There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of captivating pictures out there, especially when you see them taken with the older camera, where they're like
brown ghost.
Yeah, there's one on the stairs.
That's the one, the brown ghost.
Oh,
yeah.
So those are the ones that when you see pictures of windows from the street, and they're like, "Oh, that's a face," and it's like, really? That's a face? You can make that into anything. But when you capture something else like that, those are really good pieces of evidence. So again, people are going to debunk anything you do, but I think for me, again, saying it for like the fourth time, it's video and audio evidence at the same time.
Yeah. I think that's a hard sell. I like you said, I think most people would debunk it and everything. There's been movies out there, and there's been other things where, like in the movie, I think 13 Ghosts, where they figured out how to capture spirits and everything. There's even been, this is my favorite conspiracy theory, that the military has captured ghosts, and sometimes they use them to infiltrate enemy territory. God, I love that. Wouldn't that be cool? That was real.
Very.
I love it. That's my conspiracy theory. I'm a conspiracy nut, by the way. I love a great conspiracy. Love it. It's so much best, right? It's the best. Because some of them come true, and then you're like, pardon me?
You could just make up things, and people,
I know.
They jump on your bandwagon, and there you go. Here comes your conspiracy theory.
Yeah, like the flat earthers. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you on that, but there's thousands of people who still believe that, who to this day believe the earth is flat. It
was funny. I think there was one of those TikToks or something on Facebook or something that said the flat earth community is growing around the world. And they said around the world. So it's like, if you're flat earth, why would you say around?
That's a good one. I love it. So, guys, before we wrap up, the hour is flown by. This has been amazing. Rachel's always amazing. Keith, you're amazing too, buddy. You're one of my spooky friends now. So, before we wrap up, I've been doing this with couples who do paranormal investigations together. It's called my newlywed game, the paranormal newlywed game. If you're familiar with the newlywed game, back in the day, they would have couples on, and then they would write on a little board saying, they'd ask them questions like, who hogs the covers or whatever like that. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and I promise you guys won't get divorced or separated or anything like that. You guys will be, fine. I do not take liable for answers coming, but this is a fun game. So let's start with, who would be most likely to pull a prank during an investigation? Keith. Right out of the gate.
Yep.
Why?
Because it's fun. I mean, pranks, I don't do a lot of pranks, but I'll do some pranks. And, when we investigate, we like to kind of go about things, and we'll just do it almost like when you're talking to a child. You don't talk to a child baby talk. You talk to them normal, and everything's great. So during an investigation, we kind of like to have a lighter, regular conversation. We talk to the spirits like they're part of us or even there. And so we like to try and keep it lighthearted. Some of the times the best evidence we get is when we're not talking to them, we're talking to each other. And then all of a sudden we're getting EVPs, or we're getting the bell ringing like, hey, you forgot us. Hello. So
we're still here.
Yeah. So if
you're seeking us.
If we're on an investigation and maybe some people are a little too serious about it, then it might be good to throw in something a little just to lighten the mood.
All right. So the next one is, who is the better gift giver?
You say me.
Well, maybe the better gift getter. I don't hate. I'm not a fan of Apple products. I'm more of the Android type products. And I make fun of her about all her Apple stuff. And she goes, I haven't bought anything. I said, you got all that Apple stuff. And she's like, who bought it for me? I'm like,
gotcha.
I might give her more expensive gifts, thermal camo and things.
Nice.
But she'll definitely do the more thoughtful gifts, like putting a lot more thought into it.
Okay, nice. Next question. Who would survive a zombie apocalypse? Which one of you?
I would be closer. She's slow.
Joe, you're slow? I mean, you can't run?
I've got two I got 2 fake knees. I still outrun her. No, I don't know. I think it's probably just because I'm bigger. You know, I got a little more heft right now, so it might suit me. I don't know how well you yield weapons.
Just give me a gun.
Don't find out, Keith. I think this could be an interesting night.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, if you guys saw a full body apparition on your investigation, who would try to communicate to it first?
If we both saw it at the same time.
Same time.
Yeah, she might be the first one to say something. I mean, I would definitely want to say something, but I don't know. I think I might be more in shock. So it might be something that she would.
I'd be like, hello, friend.
Yeah, she would be more
Sit down.
expecting of seeing something like that. Whereas because I haven't seen much or experienced a lot, it might be a little bit more shocking to me. So yeah, I think she would probably be the first one to attempt communication.
Neither of you would be scared. No? You're good with it? Just appeared in front of you. A lady or a man. No? You're good with it? I gotcha. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah, it'll be startling, but let's figure this out then. Is this really something here, or is this my imagination? Am I hallucinating? Did I take too many gummies? I mean, what's going on?
All right. Last.
Gummies.
And then she'll be asking the questions while I'm trying to figure it out.
He'll be
Okay,
like-
last question. This is the toughest question. What's your partner's pet peeve on an investigation? So, Rachel, what does Keith do on an investigation that is your pet peeve? Here it goes.
Baloney. When he farts on an investigation.
Yes!
I don't fart. I haven't farted since I was 6 years old.
I love it. That might attract the ghost or maybe not attract the ghost. I don't know.
Or he'll try to blame it on the ghost.
Well, you don't.
He'll be like, it wasn't me.
See, I wouldn't do that because then people would think of sulfur and they think sulfur is a demon and be like, oh no, a demon's here. So I couldn't do that.
He did it.
I didn't.
He did it.
All right, Keith, your turn.
My general pet, really quick, my general pet peeve is whispering. So it's not necessarily her, but when people whisper, we try to tell them all the time just to talk, because when you go back through EVPs and you're listening and you hear whispering, if it's someone in the group that's whispering, it's like, what was that? What was that? Who did you hear that? And it turns out it's somebody rather than an EVP. So that's my pet peeve in general. But she does kind of whisper from time to time still.
Hey, what's going on? Awesome. You guys have been awesome. I always loved having Rachel on and Keith. Now you're my spooky friend. Like I said, I love you guys. Please support all you can do. I'll put all the links and all that good stuff of their paranormal team. And also, make suggestions. If you're in the area where they live and everything, make a suggestion, right? I tell you that sometimes because sometimes people have a suggestion for you. Maybe you want to check out and everything like that. Why don't you tell my spooky friends what's coming up? What are you guys doing and where they can find you?
We've got a packed calendar this year. I know I'll be at a few Paracons. I think the very first one is Coastal Haunts, right? Is that in June or something? He's got the full thing on his phone. But yeah, I'll be at that one. We're gonna enjoy ourselves, and we'll be at the New Orleans Paracon. But we're going as this time is gonna be it's a vacation for us. But the College of the Arcane
is in
June. I'll be there. I'm going to be at the Esoteric Expo again, and that's in Rock Island, New York, and that'll be not New York, Rock Island, Illinois.
Mountain Tour.
Yeah, that'll be in October, and I'll be at Smoky Mountain Terror well in August. But we've got upcoming investigations too. Our next one's going to be at the Night House with Crooked Path Paranormal. We're doing a lot of collaborations this year. So we're going to take it low tech on that investigation, and people should keep an eye out because we're going to be filming it, and hopefully they'll see it somewhere real soon of what we're going to be doing. Yeah, we're going there, and then we've got We're going to be going to Ashmore Estates. We'll be going down to
Eloise.
Yeah, we're going to do Eloise Asylum. We're going to be doing Pythian Castle,
Yeah, we kind of
Billy
like
Creek Village.
take Nashville and do an 8-hour circle, and that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, anything
Nice.
in that 8-hour spit, we'll be there.
But she's working on creating the list to just put on the webpage for fun, so people can see.
On social media.
And, yeah, and people can see, and if they're in the area and they want to come by and there's room or anything like that, it's great to be able to collab with.
I'll be hosting some workshops and that kind of thing.
'Cause it's
talking
not just-
about stone tape theory and
Yes.
and some other fun workshops like divination.
But like you said earlier, the collabs work out well because you get to see how other people investigate. So maybe they're doing something that you'd be like, I'd like to do that too. So
I never thought of that.
yeah, exactly. So
We learn from each other
Right.
and hopefully further the question, getting those answers rather than, trying to go about it solo. I think we get more answers doing it all together.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
what
that's
we're all
very
about.
true. Very, very true. So again, thank you so much. This has been awesome. The hour's flown by. I could talk to you guys for hours. You're so much fun. And I love you guys. So again, check them out. Make sure, any events you can go to support them. Hey, so much the better, right? Come on out, say hi to Keith and Rachel or whoever's there. And make sure, if you have a good story or a good place, a location to go to. Yeah. So thank you very much, guys.
thank you. This was great. We enjoyed it
All
a lot.
right. Yep. Thank you. And stay spooky.